So it's good to use the correct size when you have it available. And make sure to put all your bolts in a good safe location, because believe it or not, you do need all the parts to put it back together. And the head cover comes off like that. Alright, now we're on the other side of the bike. We need to pull this side cover off. You don't actually need to pull it off, but a lot of the time the cam's a little difficult to get out, and you can just give it a little bump with the hammer to knock it out pretty easily. Again, I'm using an impact driver because this bike is held together with Phillips head screws that like to strip out, and the impact driver prevents that from happening. I'm just going to pull these screws out real quick. And then we'll be able to see the cam from both sides and start working on getting it pulled out. Alright, you can see we pretty much have the head ready to pull off. That's on the right side of the engine, the cam you can see right here. I normally like to just give it a little push to pull it out. In the front here you can see the cam, how the valves are operated by the tappets. And again, we've loosened the tappets here to allow the cam to have room to pull out when we are ready for it. Alright, next step is we need to unbolt the cam from the cam sprocket. It takes a 10mm wrench, and you do have to hold the crank, since the cam is attached down here, to be able to pull it off. We got them loosened. Now we just need to pull the bolts out, and the cam should come right out of the engine. Alright, we got the cam unbolted from the sprocket. We're just going to go over here on the other side of the motor, give it a little tap. You can see that the cam is pulling out. One thing to remember when pulling it out is you don't want your cam chain to fall into the bottom end of the engine. So it's just a good idea to put a screwdriver through there in the meantime, just to keep it from pulling back down into the bottom end. Once you get the cam out, check it over for wear, see if there looks like there's any scoring or scratching on it, on the lobes particularly. This one looks like it's in pretty good shape, so I'm going to be able to reuse it. Alright, I decided to pull off the intake manifold and the carburetor right here. It's attached by just two 8mm bolts. You don't have to do this, it's just going to give me a little extra ability to see in to the motors, make sure the piston's at top dead center, and just a little bit more maneuverability when pulling the head off. So I'd recommend it. It just takes a couple extra minutes, but again, you do not have to do it if you don't want to. The last thing you want to do before pulling the head off is to remove the exhaust on the bottom side of the head. It's held on by two 10mm nuts. All you need to do is pull these off and then pull the exhaust out of the head here, and it should allow the head to come right off. I just got the exhaust off of the head, and I'm about to take the head off of the cylinder. See it pulled out a little bit there, and you just want to make sure, again, like I said earlier, you don't want your cam chain to fall into the bottom end of the motor. Once you get a little gap in the head, you can actually just stick a screwdriver in there, pull the head right off. As you can see, the head does have a little bit of carbon buildup on the valves. That being said, it looks pretty good, but a good thing to do when taking the time to pull the head off is you can use a steel brush to get off most of that carbon deposits, and as well as on the top of the piston you can see there's a little bit of carbon. It's a good idea just to clean it with a steel brush, get that off, and it'll run a little bit smoother. Alright, we're almost done. We're going to pull the cam sprocket out of the chain. Make sure to keep aware there's a dot on the cam sprocket here. You're going to use that to line up the timing when you put the motor back together. So just kind of keep aware of where the dot is. Mine's starting to rub off, so if you're using an old motor like this, it might be a little bit more difficult to see. All you need to do now is pull the cylinder off, which again is just going to involve a little bit use of my favorite tool, the hammer and screwdriver. And that was what you don't want to do with the cam chain. That was a near miss of it falling down into the bottom end, but you can see it's dangling now, so everything's good. There is a cylinder, it comes off piston here. When I first pulled the head off of this S90, I was extremely worried because I saw a dent here in the intake side of the piston, but it just so happens that the S90 pistons have this built-in stock, so if you're working on an S90, don't worry about it like I did. And there you have it. We have the top end completely disassembled. From this point, you can replace a piston if you have a bad piston, replace the rings, check out wear on all the internal components of your motor. And it's a good thing to do every couple of years just to make sure your motor's still in spec, everything looks good, and you're getting the most out of it that you want. Thanks for checking out the Scooter News series on how to disassemble a Honda style horizontal motor. Be sure to stay tuned for reassembly coming soon.